You know, sometimes life feels like a perfectly painted picture, balanced, bright, and serene, until one unexpected brushstroke changes everything. Maria's story begins exactly like that. Maria was once a woman who had it all, talented, beautiful, and happily married. But when the economy tanked, everything in her life fell apart. Her family had to start over from scratch amid hardship. Despite having to work in a challenging and stressful environment, Maria always maintains a strong spirit, trying every day to stabilize her life. And in many ways, that's the invisible strength that defines real courage, the kind that doesn't seek attention, but quietly builds hope in the background. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, someone else's life was about to cross paths with hers in the most unexpected way. Teeshi was a man grounded in sincerity. His wife, Luna, was expecting their first child, a new chapter filled with excitement, nerves, and hope. Teeshi often told his friends that life felt like a sunrise, full of promise and light. But as any good story reminds us, life always finds a way to connect people who need to meet. One sunny afternoon, Teeshi went out with some friends to relax. As they strolled through the bustling entertainment district of the city, a place filled with lights, sounds, and the echoes of everyday dreams, that's where he met her, Maria. It took him a moment to recognize her, Luna's old friend from years ago. Her smile was still there, but something behind it felt quieter, more fragile. He didn't know her story yet, but something in his intuition told him that this woman had been through more than she would ever admit. Teeshi admired Maria's quiet strength. Though she spoke humbly of her hardships, he sensed the weight she carried. In that silent understanding, compassion grew. Sometimes the greatest changes begin not with grand acts, but with simple kindness, and for Maria, this kindness would open an unexpected new chapter. After meeting Maria, Teeshi couldn't forget her exhausted smile. At home, he spoke to Luna, who recalled Maria's warmth and selflessness. Realizing Maria was struggling, Teeshi quietly promised to help her, reaching out to his network for job opportunities. Meanwhile, Maria pushed through long days, feeling unseen, until Luna's caring message offered small relief. When Teeshi met her again, his kind words reminded her that resilience wasn't about perfection, but courage. Weeks later, Teeshi secured a stable position for her. Grateful, Maria realized that genuine kindness restores hope, rippling quietly through lives and reaffirming faith in humanity. The day Maria started her new job, the morning sun felt different. Her new workplace was modest but welcoming. The people were kind, the environment calm, and for the first time in a long while, she felt safe. There was still uncertainty. Of course, every new beginning carries a hint of fear, but this time, that fear was mixed with hope. For months, she had seen only the darker shades of life: loss, exhaustion, and self-doubt. But now, in that small moment, she saw something else. Light. Not the kind that blinds, but the kind that softly reminds you that healing is happening. At home, her husband noticed the change immediately. Her laughter returned, hesitant at first, then genuine. She began sharing more, talking openly about the challenges she had faced, the moments she had wanted to give up, and the quiet strength that kept her going. When he learned about how hard she had worked just to keep their family afloat, he didn't feel disappointment, only admiration. "You carried so much alone," he said, holding her hands. "Next time, let's carry it together." Those words touched Maria more deeply than he could ever know. Because love isn't about perfection. It's about standing side by side, even when life doesn't look the way you planned. Maria started to rebuild more than her career. She was rebuilding herself. She learned to celebrate small victories. A kind word from a colleague, finishing a task she once thought impossible, coming home with a smile that felt real. And through it all, she never forgot the kindness that had set her on this new path. Teeshi and Luna often checked in, not as heroes or rescuers, but as friends who simply cared. Maria often found herself wondering what life would have been like if Teeshi hadn't reached out that day. But then she'd realize something profound. It wasn't just luck or coincidence. It was a reminder that when we live with empathy, we create invisible bridges between hearts. And one day, those bridges carry someone or even ourselves to safety. Gratitude is not about having everything you want. It's about recognizing the people who stood by you when you had nothing. They are the ones who make life worth living. As the seasons changed, Maria flourished in her new role. Her confidence returned, not in loud declarations, but in the calm way she handled each challenge. Her story wasn't one of tragedy, but of transformation, proof that even when life breaks you apart, it also gives you the tools to rebuild stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. When Luna gave birth to their daughter, Maria and her husband visited Luna and Teeshi's home with flowers and tears in their eyes. She held the tiny baby and whispered, "You are entering a world that can be harsh, my dear, but also full of good things. Never forget that." Everyone smiled, and for a moment, it felt as though every struggle, every sleepless night, every quiet prayer had led them all to this shared peace, a reminder that humanity, at its best, is a cycle of giving and receiving love. In the end, Maria's story reminds us that even when life unravels, compassion can stitch it back together. True strength isn't found in perfection, but in perseverance, in choosing to stay kind when the world turns cold. Every act of goodness we offer becomes a light for someone else. And sometimes, that single light is enough to guide an entire life home. This cinematic tale reminds us all that compassion, gratitude, and perseverance can light the way through life's toughest challenges. A story for anyone seeking inspiration, hope, and the power of human connection.